News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
KBNU News Time is 4:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Whole Tree Care. The Cache County Republicans will host a Flag Day program featuring media personality Glenn Beck. The free event is scheduled for tonight at 6:30 at Ridgeline High School in Millville. County GOP Chair Shelley Giddings says she's super excited about Beck's appearance. Under various names and formats, Beck's News Talk and Political Opinion Show was televised by CNN from 2006 to 2008, then switched to Fox News Channel from 2009 to 2011. He is currently featured on Blaze Media, a multi-platform news and entertainment network that he founded in 2018. His weekend 3-hour radio program airs on KBNU Sunday afternoons from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Beck's appearances here in Cache Valley have sometimes been controversial after he was announced as principal speaker at Logan City's annual 4th of July celebration in 2014. 3 members of the Logan City Council disavowed Beck's participation in the event, saying that regardless of their place on the political spectrum, he should not be a part of a taxpayer-funded and city-sponsored event. Giddings promised that Beck's appearance at the GOP's Flag Day celebration will be memorable. She added that residents can reserve seats for Beck's appearance by going to the Cache County Republican website, cachegop.com. KBNU News Time is 4:06. KBNU weather for tonight, partly cloudy, isolated rain showers this evening. Overnight low in the mid-30s. North winds 10 to 20 miles an hour this evening. Sunny around 70 on Wednesday, and then a big jump in temps up to 90 degrees on Thursday. Still a cool day today. It's 58 currently at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Logan Dental Associates. Make your appointment at Logan Dental Associates with Dr. Brandon Preby, Curtis Taylor, Anthony Larson, or Dr. Paul Harris. Or if it's more convenient, visit them at their Cherry Creek Dental Office in Richmond, a full-service dental office to take care of the entire family.
They say diamonds are the way to a woman's heart, but so is a well-kept yard. Kudos to you. You edger of edges taking care of the hedges. But what about those large mature trees?
Yeah, these way up here.
A real man isn't afraid to ask for a little help. No worries. Whole Tree Care has got you covered. They trim and shape large trees and fruit trees, remove stumps and more. Let Whole Tree Care do the heavy lifting. Call 760-6587 and ask for their radio discount. 760-6587.
KBNU News Time is 4:08. On KBNU's For the People program last week, we featured all of the Republican candidates for the 1st Congressional District. The winner will be determined in the primary election to be held on June 28th. Incumbent Blake Moore took part in a radio town hall that was held on KBNU and also on radio in the Uinta Basin. He answered a question about voter disconnect and cynicism, people feeling that their vote doesn't really matter and that Congress is not getting things done on their behalf.
I would say that as a taxpayer myself, I have many concerns about how much grandstanding and inability there is in this environment in solving our nation's biggest problems. And that's what it boils down to. And again, our debt and deficit, the deficits that we run each year, immigration, obviously inflation comes from a lot of issues, but it can come from economic policy that's been driven, our energy policy.
In his work on congressional committees, Moore is involved with the Western Wildfire Caucus.
For us, it's less about authorizing and appropriating money. What I can do and what we have an area of influence is things like the Fire Sheds Act. We've got a couple other fire-related bills that we've got going in, but I think the most important one for us is Fire Shed.
This bill allows other states to enter into agreements like Utah has with federal agencies, which Moore says does a better than average job of reducing wildfire risk. He wants other states to do that, particularly states like California and Oregon, who regularly permeate Utah with wildfire smoke at certain times of the year. A Bountiful man accused of fleeing with his 3-year-old child is in custody after a search that included multiple law enforcement agencies. Authorities said the incident began Monday at about 8:30 p.m. when an officer with the Bountiful City Police Department attempted to serve a court order to Dustin Matthews. Bountiful Police Assistant Chief Dave Edwards said a judge had ordered Matthews to relinquish custody of his 3 children, ages 8, 6, and 3. Information was not provided on what led to the court order. Police made contact with Matthews as he was pulling into the driveway of his home. When the officer attempted to serve the order, Matthews became agitated. During the interaction, Matthews picked up his 3-year-old child and ran away from the scene, leaving his 6- and 8-year-old children in the driveway with the police officer. Edwards said multiple agencies responded using a variety of resources, including a child abduction response team, canine units from Davis County Police Departments, and the Utah Department of Public Safety helicopter. Matthews reportedly ran into a wooded area behind the neighborhood. Police were able to hone in on his location when a resident contacted authorities to report seeing a man running with a small child. The suspect and the child were located a few blocks from his home. Edwards said the child was safe. KBNU News Time is 4:11. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Get your news from KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
My name is Dr. Brandon Prevey, and I love being a dentist. I work with Drs. Curtis Taylor, Anthony Larson, and Paul Harris. When people ask where our office is, I actually have 2 answers. First, I spend part of the week at Logan Dental Associates, and then second, I spend the other part at Cherry Creek Dental in Richmond. Both locations are a full-service dental office and can take care of everyone in the family. Call or go online and make your appointment with the offices most convenient for you. Logan Dental Associates in Logan or Cherry Creek Dental in Richmond.
Happy Father's Day for Birch Creek Golf Course. For Dad this Father's Day, choose Birch Creek. Our 10 9-hole punch passes are on sale, or get Dad a gift certificate that can be used for golf or golf lessons from our PGA teaching staff. Visit our virtual pro shop at birchcreekgolf.com for Dad this Father's Day and have your purchase mailed to you or Dad. So for Dad this Father's Day, I invite you to choose Birch Creek Golf Course in Smithville.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cache Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have 2 guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. It's a nice Tuesday afternoon. As Bill said, just high 50s, but 90s in a couple of days.
Thursday, yeah. 94 Friday.
Looks like could be mowing the lawn tonight. Get that over with. I'm almost caught up on all the outdoor stuff that you don't want to do when the weather's hot, so I'm looking forward to being able to say that's done for the year at least. And other than that, it is warm out there. Saw some sprinklers on in the middle of the day today, a couple of different places.
After getting over 3/300 of an inch of rain yesterday.
Yeah, that is... I get, that sometimes you have hot spots or a trouble area in the yard, or maybe you're watering fertilizer in, things like that. There are somewhat legitimate reasons a person might be doing this, but this was just a sprinkler system set to go off at a really bad time, about noon, and after a big rainstorm. So, let's keep an eye on that, should we? Secondary water metering is coming our way. We talked about this during the legislative session. the legislature partially funded what is going to be an 8-year program, at least. I'm assuming this is ongoing because by the time we get to that 8th year, there's going to be maintenance and replacement happening well before then. But the state has set a timeline of 8 years to meter every secondary water connection in the state. And this is based on some research, lengthy research, about 11 years of research that was done in the Weber Basin District. Weber Basin managers there had installed secondary water meters in a few hundred, or maybe it was a few thousand connections. I can't remember. And they were right here on the show. Anyway, a lot, enough to be significant and a statistical sample that is worthy of their conclusion. But their conclusion was that showing people how much water they use was enough to reduce water use by about 30% for those who are metered. And that, again, was just a monthly statement. And I have no idea how this came to the residents. I don't. I can speculate that maybe it just comes with your, the bill from your city. Maybe it's just included like many newsletters are. Maybe it's something different in this case where it was a pilot program, a trial run to do this study. Maybe it was hand-delivered or taped to the front door. I don't know. But either way, somehow residents who were metered in this pilot program in Weber Basin, in the Weber Basin area, were alerted each month to their water usage, by gallon. They also, in that same report, saw when they were using the most, what times of day, what days of the week, things like that. And that was it. That was the only information provided to the residents. But then that knowledge led to about a 30% reduction in water use. And so the idea behind this is metering secondary water connections, people being aware of how much water they're using, and then I would assume being able to contrast that in some way would give them a bit more water consciousness. And so I think that's a good idea. But the big question, I think it's a legitimate question, and the answer right now is no. Before I even ask the question, it's a flat no. There has been not a single announcement of plans to do otherwise. So a flat no on the question of does this mean we'll start seeing additional charges for water? In this specific situation, no. In fact, during the legislative debate, lawmakers said they didn't want to go there. They were very clear, so that legislative intent couldn't be confused or misunderstood. They said, I believe it's actually in the legislation that, or in the text of the appropriations, rather, in that budget, state budget, that dedicates the money required to get this program up and running. And when I said partially funded, that's because they know it's going to cost more than they've put into the program to get everything done in 8 years. So enough money was put in to get the ball rolling on this. But during the debate, lawmakers, the original requester, I believe the governor even, when signing the budget, mentioned this specific line item in his presentation, and that was to quell concerns. People are worried that once the meters go in, it will just be a short period of time before you'll start seeing additional charges on your water bill. What I would say is, again, the answer right now is a flat no. That's not going to happen immediately or anytime in the very near future. But I do think that what we'll see from this is you may see cities implement something like an abuser fee. They wouldn't call it that. I might. If I were a city manager. In fact, I might use that exact language on the bill. So you might see some sort of, and I don't know if that would be some sort of a flat rate or just the way a fine works. Maybe your bill is $50 more if you fall into that abuser category. I don't have a problem with that. I know some abusers, and I'll be honest, the abusers I know. Well, okay, I can think of 3 people right now that in my personal life that I know that I would call secondary water abusers. 2 of them abuse out of, being blunt, laziness. The third abuses It's that belligerent, I'm not going to eat my peas kind of mentality. The real rebels out there. But they just, So, but I'm guessing those people are going to be really few and far between. This program is geared towards the normal person, the person who does want a nice yard and wants to keep trees alive and wants to be able to use the secondary water since they're paying for it, obviously. And then at the same time, is conscious of the fact that water's scarce. We're in a drought right now, second year of a pretty severe drought. But also we live in a desert state in general. We have a lot of growth coming our way, and our water's already running short. This is those people. I don't think any of us intend to waste water or use more than we need. But I know I do. I know probably all of us do in some way. So over the last couple of years, it's been nice to be a little more educated on this. I'm in a unique position, of course. I get to sit here in the studio and interview people from USU Extension or the Water Conservancy District here in Cache County, folks like that. And so a lot of great tips and information come my way. I haven't taken advantage of it yet, but I know several people who have had the USU Extension folks. This is a free program, by the way, but I'm told about a 6-week lead time on your request at minimum before they'll get to your yard. But I know a few folks who had USU Extension water folks come out and run the test on their sprinkler system to let them know how efficient or not efficient it was and what could be improved. So I think people really care about this type of thing. So I believe that what the Weber Basin study shows will probably hold up statewide as this program of metering every secondary water connection over the next 8 years here in the state continues. I think you'll see people being made aware of their water usage, being made aware of what is maybe excessive or times when it got excessive. That's probably where I'm going to run into trouble when I start seeing those reports. So I think that'll be helpful. I think that will help us all save water voluntarily to avoid, the summertime restrictions and things like that. But to the question of, whether or not this is a step towards paying more for water, again, right now, the answer is unequivocally no. Lawmakers made that clear in the passage of this funding line item that that's not where they were going with this. Again, to avoid any way for it to be misinterpreted by a single water manager or city or county anywhere, they said that is not where we're going with this. In fact, we would oppose such an effort at the state level should it pop up. That said, I do believe that attitude will change. And maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing. I don't know. What I do know is, we subsidize our water here in Utah, and we're not paying anything close to what, the actual cost is. That's, I think, smart to do in general. But at the same time, that does say, there's some wiggle room on the price. And again, maybe it'll be enough to just, impose fines or even, maybe if someone's an abuser and continues to be an abuser, their rate goes up. Maybe cities implement such, categories of water use. On the flip side of that, you've got a family farm. Maybe they're struggling to get by and they're going to use a lot of water. Are they going to, are they going to be considered an abuser for their water use? They shouldn't be. Although if they have a neighbor right next door that's not growing alfalfa, that's suddenly unfair to that neighbor. It's going to be complicated. But I do think that the secondary water metering is a step in the direction. Again, right now, unequivocally, no. You will not see this become an excuse to charge you more when the meters are installed. But down the road, and by down the road, maybe 5, 10, even 15 years, I do believe we're going to start seeing things change on that front. And again, maybe just in the sense that water abusers see their rates go up until their use comes down. Maybe you see certain areas of the state where water is a little more scarce, where rates go up to justify what's going to have to happen to keep that sustainable building of infrastructure and somehow getting more water in, things like that, building a reservoir maybe. And then you're going to see battles over this. I saw an argument online during this legislative debate this spring in which a person said, look, St. George, because of where they are, St. George residents should be paying more for water than those in Cache County or in Logan, Utah, because water is a bit more plentiful here than it is in St. George. And St. George, their water is, an increasing burden, or is going to be an increasing burden as we continue to discuss pipelines and things like that for the taxpayer to fund. It's a reasonable thing to suggest that folks in St. George pay a bit more. But, flip that around again, more people in St. George on fixed incomes than anywhere else in the state. Do you want to go there? I mean, it's going to be extremely complicated. So my question to listeners is, when this happens, 5, 10, 15 years from now, would you be happy to pay a bit more for your water? 753-5868. We'll be back right after this.
Every year, when Father's Day weekend rolls around, you can count on the Preston Elks Lodge Demolition Derby. This Saturday, 7 p.m. at the Preston Rodeo Arena. Buy tickets on the Preston Elks Derby Facebook or pay cash only at the gate. Just $10 for adults, $5 if you're over 60 or under 12. All proceeds benefit local families in Utah and Idaho. The Preston Elks Lodge Demolition Derby, Saturday at 7 at the Preston Rodeo Arena.
This is the Sean Hannity Show.
They have drastically reduced the ability of our own energy companies to do their job, which is exploration and extraction of energy that we can bring into the open marketplace. He has artificially reduced the world's supply. The demand has remained constant or even increased, and as a result, that's why we're paying record high amounts for a gallon of gasoline. This is how bad it is at this point.
Weekday afternoons from 1 to 4 on News Talk KVNU.
If you love them enough to listen to them practice the same song on tuba,
please be done.
Over and over and over and over and over, then surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Sounds good, honey.
Check today at NHTSA.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Quick reminder, Direct Link with Governor Cox is up. We've had the opportunity to host this now twice in a row after some technical difficulties at a rural radio group. Basically, things got a little complicated. They said, you guys want to do it again. So we got to do back-to-back Direct Links with Governor Cox here in the studio. And it's one of the few times, honestly, I don't get nervous anymore. I shouldn't say this publicly, but I'm going to. I'm gonna be a rebel today, Bill. But so I get.
You're gonna bare your soul.
I get invited to do public forums a lot, debates. Moderating debates in town halls, panels that have been hosted at the university. Representative Kurt Webb asked me a long time ago to moderate a panel of experts on public lands. Representative Ed Red years ago at the Utah Theater, huge crowd there that night, asked me to moderate a panel on medical marijuana. It's fun to do, and I like to do it. And of course, here at KVNU, we want to be tied to the community, remind people we're a part of the community. But after you've done them for so long, it's more than a decade now that I've been doing these, at least 3 or 4 a year. I don't write questions out in advance. I have a concept of 2 or 3 questions that will kind of get things started, get the ball rolling, and then after that, I just treat it as a conversation between me and the panelists, and then of course the audience is always there to check in. And the only time that I've actually found myself getting that little, I wouldn't say nervous, but that little apprehensive, well, I should prepare for this one, is the Direct Link event. I don't know what it is about being statewide and having, I think it's the responsibility of every rural radio station in the state is going to be rebroadcasting this.
And if you really mess up, you travel any place in Utah,
right.
They're going to look, you're that guy that really blew it last.
That couldn't say competence. Yeah, it gets a little nerve-wracking, but yeah, it's just that it's the responsibility to the other stations and to the governor anyway. That aside was totally unnecessary. The Direct Link event is 6 to 7 p.m. tonight, but also something new on this one, and I'm excited to hear this myself. I'm actually glad I'm not hosting the event tonight because I want to be able to just listen undistracted. But tonight,
that's kind of nice too,
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, she, through personal experience and just seeing how she's conducted herself as lieutenant governor, one of my favorite Utah politicos, Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson. Governor Cox unavailable for tonight's event, even though it was as scheduled. They didn't want to reschedule, and so Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson will actually be the guest during the Direct Link with Governor Cox event tonight. And again, for those not familiar, these are similar to the, I think, 20 years plus now Speak to the Governor event, a mostly monthly event that happens in Salt Lake. That event would always be so Salt Lake City centered. And you could tell the questions, the callers, the topics, all centered around the more populated areas of the state. Governor Cox wanted to change that, and so he still does that Speak to the Governor event, but he wanted to do another one, which they decided to call Direct Link with Governor Cox, that focused entirely and only on rural areas and rural issues. And then the Utah Broadcast Association built a network, basically, of rural stations, including us here at KVNU, to broadcast this when it happens. So, again, it's happening tonight, 6 to 7 p.m. We will not be hosting it way down south, it sounds like. Canyon Media will be conducting the Direct Link event tonight, but you will be able to hear it here on our airwaves, 6 to 7 p.m. And again, Governor Cox was unavailable, and they didn't want to reschedule the whole thing, so they are. It will be Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson instead, and give it a listen because she's very smart. She got some transparency bills we were all working on passed that were not expected to pass. And it was amazing to watch anyway when she was a state senator. So I'm a fan. But she'll be 6 to 7 p.m. In the governor's place during the Direct Link with Governor Cox event here on our airwaves. All right, I asked listeners before the break there how they feel about, and again, just to be clear, this is not around the corner. I would be surprised if it happened in the next 5 years. I would say 10 is more realistic, maybe even 15. But the state is funding an 8-year plan to have every secondary water connection in the state metered by that 8-year timeline, by the time that timeline is up. And people are worried this is going to lead to additional costs, additional charges. And I agree. It's not going to happen soon, but it is a step in that direction. And so my question is that necessarily all around a bad thing? Should water abusers pay a higher rate, at least temporarily, until they get it under control? If so, then how do we define water abusers? That's going to be difficult. Should people in St. George pay more than people here in Logan? Makes sense, right? They're literally in the desert. We've got a little more water. At the same time, more people in St. George on fixed incomes than here in Cache Valley, so that seems a little harsh. Would you pay more? 753-5868. Brett on the line. Brett, your thoughts?
Oh, I appreciate you taking my call. I know you're busy with all different topics, but it's an interesting topic.
No, I'm glad you called.
I guess my first comment is the legislature can be a little bit knee-jerk reaction.
Sure.
I don't want to fault them for being progressive and trying to get on top of the drought, I guess, if you want to call it that. However, I don't think they've thought about some of the water that comes out of our canyons isn't very clean. And some of the water meters that they're talking about using will break after a year or two with the water's not being cleaned. And who's going to pay for that?
Sure.
These water meters are, can be very expensive. I don't know for sure, but they can be up to $2,000 a piece just for one meter.
Yeah, that was the price tag that was quoted during the debate. Most lawmakers kept referencing,
right.
$2,000 to $2,500.
Right, and the grant, right, and the grant that they're talking about or they're proposing is only a 70-30. That the legislature in the first 2 years will pay 70% of that grant, but the water users and the people that they're gonna have to pony up those costs up front for the water metering.
Sure. It's interesting
after 3 or 4 years, it goes to 50-50.
Yeah, and at that point, who's paying for it then, right? I mean, that's the part. They sort of left those I's undotted and T's uncrossed, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of cart before the horse here, and these little water user companies, some of them can be only 20, 30 users strong. That even a HOA, for example, can be one water user.
Sure.
Are they going to make everybody on that HOA buy a separate meter for each individual home, or is the whole HOA going to be on their one meter? Some of these dot the I's, cross the T's haven't been discussed or even brought up.
Sure.
So
and that's
I think you're going to see tweaks to it as it hits the legislature in the years to come. They're going to tweak it here and there.
Sure.
They'll have user, to. 80% of all the secondary water in the state's used by ag. And ag was not included in this at all.
No, and that's what.
And
so
I'm not
interesting
attacking
to
ag
me.
at all. But if you get 80% of the water users in this state in terms of what the percentage is and how much water is used, when it comes to secondary water is used by ag.
That's true.
And none of this bill addresses that at all.
No, and that raises, Brett, an interesting question, because if this, as I predict, if this does down the road, 5, 10, 15 years, end up being a step in the direction of paying, more, different rate, maybe rates go up, maybe abusers pay more, maybe heavy volume, those with, high use pay more. How do you do that, in an effective way if you're not including agriculture? If you're going to say, which I think in the future we will, if you're going to say, okay, heavy users are going to pay at least a tiny bit more for their water, and yet you're not including, someone watering fields of alfalfa, you're not really effectively addressing the problem, But at the same time, do you want to pile more on those family farms that are already struggling?
No,
it's difficult.
No, but if they're willing to throw hundreds of millions of dollars at this problem, then I don't know how you don't include ag into that hundreds of millions of dollars and incentivize them through money to be more efficient in their farming to allow more water downstream. Because isn't that the general purpose of this, is to get more water to the Great Salt Lake?
Sure. Yeah, the idea is if people know how much they're using, they'll use less, and that should include agriculture.
Right, to include bringing in the technology to say, okay, ag, we're not restricting your water, we're not going to take your right from you, but we want to incentivize you to, meter your water or put testers in the ground to say, hey, when you're done watering, this automatically will shut off, and you don't need to water a 24-hour cycle on this one spot, therefore saving 10 hours, as an example, 10 hours of running, a quarter-mile line.
Sure. And that's, I think, Brett, what they're kind of sort of talking about is other incentives for ag to get them to switch over to new technologies, new systems, and things like that. But yeah, it does seem weird if the goal of this is to really just understand how much water we're using, when, and why. 80% of our water use roughly each year isn't even being monitored. That seems like a bad way to understand it, right?
Well, and the fear that everyone has is that the state's going to come in and take people's shares and rights.
Sure.
And I don't think the state will win that in court. But at the same time, if the state's willing to throw millions at it, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, and let's just take a farmer with 1,000 acres. Okay, we'll spend $30,000. We'll sort of audit your whole land, what water you need, and then, hey, we'll incentivize for every acre square foot that you save in a year, we'll pay you for it.
Sure.
And the farmer knows at the end of the day that he's going to save water, but produce the same amount of crop and get a check at the end of the year. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Because water has value, and if the Great Salt Lake is going to die and we need to fill it up, hypothetically, then what better $10,000 can we spend to pay a farmer to be efficient?
Sure. Which just makes sense, right? This is
well, you'd think.
Bret, I hope you plan to take some of this perspective, and obviously you've done some reading and research on this, and head off to one of the Water Conservancy District meetings and get this conversation going.
Right. I'm on the water board.
Okay.
So
all right.
That's where some of this information comes from, and I've expressed my view with the water board and some of the people that are in the know, and I'm not opposed to what they're saying, and I think that what the direction's in the right way. Going down the street is still going down the street, but I mean, I am on secondary water. I'm not on a meter, and when they come with a $1,500 meter to meter my land, I don't have $1,500 to pay for a meter that I don't know is going to last but 3 or 4 years because the water's dirty.
Sure, or even worse. There's a story. I don't know. I don't remember for sure which water area this was in the West, but I believe it was here in Utah, maybe Idaho. But they went with a vendor. It was a mistake, and everyone had to replace their meters the next year, and then the year after that. And that, not a lot of people have that kind of money sitting around, and not a lot of cities do, even if the city picks up the tab. So
and even the people that make the water meters have said, well, there's no guarantee here if that water's dirty that we're going to guarantee this meter for 3 or 4 or 5 years, and then it becomes totally unfeasible to replace a $2,000 meter every 2 or 3 years.
Sure, and I know
for what, a 3 or 4 month watering season.
Sure,
I might as well turn on my hose.
That's right. I think that if they don't do it right, that's how most people will react. And I do know, Bret, as a final thought, I pulled a sprinkler head off a couple of years ago, and a salamander came out. So, it's we're gonna have to think about this stuff. So, Bret, I appreciate you calling. It's fascinating to hear your perspective on this, and good luck on the board there. Keep strong. If you ever need backup, you just call in and yell, and we'll send all of our listeners over to back you up.
As a side note, we are coming out with a resolution, hopefully in the next 2 or 3 months, that will sort of address from a board perspective our resolution to address some of the concerns and some of the issues that are coming up from the Wasatch Front.
Sure.
So I look forward to having you part of that conversation.
Oh, absolutely. I will be reaching out on that one because someone's got to.
Nate's great to contact for that.
Great. We'll reach out to him because that effort to which is great, but as that effort to save the Great Salt Lake continues, I'm really worried about Cache Valley being seen as a resource.
I think we all are.
I'm glad to know we're not alone in that. And Bret, a pleasure to have you join us today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you for calling. For others out there, if you'd like to join us as well, 753-5868. Quickly, we did have a caller mention that in agriculture, a lot of metering has already happened, for a while now on water that's pulled directly out of rivers and creeks. And that's true for the most part, but it's not a coordinated system of metering, and it's also something that isn't consistently happening enough to be. The state tried, I know, to collect that data, and it just wasn't. It wasn't reliable enough to give us a picture. But unfortunately, we didn't take any positive steps to improve that, as Bret just mentioned. With this secondary metering program, we leave ag out of it, and so 80% of the water we use in this state each year, we still are not going to be taking a look at. It's kind of a backwards way to do it, but at least we're taking a step. We'll be back after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 4:44, and the news is brought to you by the Duck Hunter. A 29-year-old North Logan man has been ordered to prison for downloading a large database of child pornography. Tyrell Judy cried and waved to a family member as he was led out of the courtroom after being given the maximum sentence. Judy was sentenced Monday morning in First District Court. He previously accepted a plea deal, pleading guilty to 10 counts of sexual exploitation of a minor, a second-degree felony. Judy was arrested last December after Logan City police officers received a cyber tip from the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. It described how an electronic device was uploading hundreds of child pornography pictures and videos to a file sharing account. As the investigation continued, police filed a warrant to search the file sharing account. They received 18 gigabits of information, including 4,924 photos and 1,588 videos, mostly of child pornography. The material had been organized by name and how old the children were. Police tracked an internet IP address to the North Logan apartment complex where Judy lived and arrested him. He admitted to being attracted to children, preferably between 12 and 17 years of age. The family of a missing Utah man is saying their son uncharacteristically has been missing for a week. The Boxlag family said Casey Boxlag was last seen at his South Salt Lake apartment June 6th. His car was found 2 days later in Castle Rock near the Wyoming border with the license plates missing. On Monday, the family held a meeting in their garage to hand out flyers to friends and family to pass out in the community. Casey's family said he had a virtual job training session last Monday but never logged in and believe he may have left his apartment around 11:40 a.m. Casey's father, Robert Boxlag, said the family had dinner 2 Saturdays ago and everything seemed normal. The area that Casey's car was found in is a remote part of Summit County, mostly private land, not far from the Wyoming state line. Robert said that Casey would not have a reason to go there and would have told someone that he was going. KUTV reports the police are calling this case suspicious, and according to the family, law enforcement in Summit County have already searched the area where Casey's car was found. The South Salt Lake Police Department said they have listed Casey in the NCIC, which is a database for missing people. And Idaho officials are closing a popular state-owned recreation area in southeastern Idaho to camping and utility terrain vehicles because visitors are leaving behind trash and human waste. Idaho Department of Lands officials also said today that UTV drivers have been going off trail and damaging the area. Department officials say the 40-acre area 4 miles east of the small town of Rockland will close Wednesday to those activities. The department says it will remain open for walk-in use unless visitors continue to leave behind trash and human waste. The Lands Department manages about 3,900 square miles of state-owned land that generates money mainly for public schools. KBNU News Time is 4:47.
Did you just build a home or remodel your current home? Well, if so, John at the Duct Hunter says you should have your heating ducts cleaned as soon as possible and change out to a high-quality furnace filter. The dust from construction, sawdust, drywall, and more is sitting in your ductwork. Your furnace filter's probably clogged. You'd be surprised what John has found in air ducts, toys, construction debris, and rodents. Let the Duct Hunter clean the ducts today. Call for a free consultation. The Duct Hunter, 770-4813.
We are the Duct Hunter. Breathe better, save money, protect your home. We are the Duct Hunter.
KBNU weather for tonight. Partly cloudy, isolated rain showers this evening. Overnight low in the mid-30s. North winds 10 to 20 miles an hour this evening. And then sunny around 70 on Wednesday. And then much warmer, around 90 degrees on Thursday. It's been to 61. It's 61 right now at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Roof Rescue. Their experienced roofing team is tried and true and will fix your roof guaranteed. Visit roofrescueusa.com to schedule your free roof inspection. That's roofrescueusa.com. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com. Let's check Wall Street now with Edward Jones.
This is financial advisor Clayton McMurdy from Edward Jones, bringing you the closing financial market report for Tuesday, June 14th. Equity markets shrugged off an initial bounce and finished the day lower with all eyes on the Federal Reserve meeting tomorrow afternoon. Investors remain concerned that the Fed will have to hike rates more aggressively to combat inflation. Inflation data today showed that the PPI, a measure of input costs for businesses, rose to 10.8% year over year in May, and the monthly growth was almost twice that of April. U.S. Treasuries have risen past 3% as markets anticipate higher interest rates. The price of oil, which has been one of the largest contributors to inflation, is hovering around $118 a barrel, and internationally, global markets are coming under pressure following the sell-off on Monday and Tuesday in the U.S. With the S&P in bear market territory, we'd like to address that bear markets can be financially and emotionally stressful for investors and are a reason that some might deviate from their financial plans. Bear markets have historically lasted around 18 months and have an average loss of near 35%. There could be more pain ahead, but it's important that investors stay true to their financial plans and goals. Knee-jerk reactions to pull money out of the market or make wholesale portfolio moves can lead to investors missing out on strong trading days and incur punitive fees that diminish returns. We recommend staying invested, but we slightly favor a defensive posture with a slight overweight to value-style shares. In the markets today, the Dow was down 151 points at 30,366. The Nasdaq was up 19 points at 10,828, and the S&P was down 14 points at 3,736. In bond markets, 10-year treasuries are trading at 3.48%, and in commodity markets, the price of crude oil was down $2.63 at $118.30 a barrel, and the spot price of gold was down $22 at $1,810. This has been today's Financial Market Report brought to you by Edward Jones, member SIPC, serving individual investors with personalized attention and long-term financial advice at 1309 North Main Street in Logan. If you'd like current stock prices or any additional information, please contact me at 435-753-0537 or visit any of our 7 branches here in Cache Valley or online at edwardjones.com.
Jessup Insurance would like to invite you to attend a friendly, no-pressure, no-cost educational Medicare 101 meeting Wednesday, June 15th. Get to know Jessup Insurance as they guide you through Medicare, simplifying the entire process, all while enjoying a yummy dessert. Wednesday, 7 p.m., June 15th at Jessup Insurance. Call 213-3200 to reserve a seat or drop by for more information.
Jessup Insurance and Retirement Services. Let us guide you.
I'm Larry Gelwicks, the getaway guru for Morris, Columbus Travel, and Holland America Line with triple 50 discounts. That's up to 50% off your cruise fare, $50 onboard spending money, and a 50% reduced deposit on select Holland America cruises. For the best travel deals on the planet, including triple 50 discounts, call Morris Columbus Travel.
Come on and get away, Morris Columbus.
Hey Utah, ready for your summer adventure? A new GMC will get you wherever the road goes and beyond. Save now on every new rugged Murdoch GMC in stock during the Drive Into Summer Sales event. At Murdoch GMC Chevrolet Buick Cadillac of Logan, we've got the lineup to get you anywhere with confidence. Drive home a new 2022 Sierra 1500, Acadia, or Terrain with 0% for 3 years. When you walk through our doors, you feel like family. At Murdoch Chevrolet Buick GMC Cadillac in Logan or online at MurdochChevroletLogan.com. We are professional grade.
Call 866-628-3065 or see dealer for complete details. Offer expires 7/5/22.
Finding comfort outdoors by upgrading your landscape is now easy and possible with the creative touch of Canyon Landscaping. Designed planting beds, landscape lighting, and paver patio upgrades will let you easily relax, entertain, and enjoy your home. Elegantly designed, professionally installed, on a budget, on time, guaranteed. Discover more at CanyonLandscaping.com. Then call to schedule your free consultation. Call 752-3838 or go to CanyonLandscaping.com. Canyon Landscaping. Look for the leaf.
Moonlight Diesel is the kind of place that values hard work and honesty. They never put money ahead of people and are proud to be family owned and operated. Serving Cache Valley for over 26 years, Moonlight Diesel is growing and busier than ever, and they're hiring. So if you or someone you know shares a passion for diesel trucks, they would love to hear from you. Stop in during regular business hours or email Julie at moonlightdiesel.com. Start a career with some of the best and most knowledgeable diesel experts in the industry. Email Julie at moonlightdiesel.com.
Happy Father's Day from Birch Creek Golf Course. For Dad this Father's Day, choose Birch Creek. Our 10 9-hole punch passes are on sale, or get Dad a gift certificate that can be used for golf or golf lessons from our PGA teaching staff. Visit our virtual pro shop at birchcreekgolf.com for Dad this Father's Day and have your purchase mailed to you or Dad. So for Dad this Father's Day, I invite you to choose Birch Creek Golf Course in Smithville.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Quick note on candidates, an announcement, of course. We confirmed this yesterday on the show, but I'm going to throw it out each and every hour at least once so everyone knows. For those of you who live in House District 2, if you don't know where that is, if you don't know if you're in it, then maybe you don't care about any of this at all. But if you're registered to vote and registered as either a Republican or an unaffiliated voter who has requested the Republican ballot or does so by June 17th, you can vote in this Republican primary for the Utah House. The primary is playing out between current Representative Mike Peterson and former Representative Val Potter. The backstory on this, Val Potter represented the district, which was then Utah House 3, but due to redistricting, the number has changed. Not the boundaries, really, but the number. So it's gone from 3 to 2 as the numbers shifted all around the state during that redistricting process last year. So it's now House District 2 in the northern part of the valley, roughly, and it is currently represented by Mike Peterson, who beat former Representative Val Potter in the primary 2 years ago. So this is former Representative Val Potter seeking to reclaim the seat. And it's been one of the more heated, I think, campaigns. The campaigns have sparred a little bit. Well, the campaign supporters, I should say, have sparred a little bit. And there have been some, rumors and accusations that Rep. Peterson was avoiding a debate with Val and didn't want to be a part of that. When I first heard that, I bristled. I really dislike that. When you see an elected official acting that way, if they are acting that way, it's them saying they believe it's their seat when actually it's your seat. So they have an obligation, I think, to make themselves publicly available in a debate or a town hall or at least a Q&A forum with their opponents so that voters can ask them questions at the same time, draw a contrast. I don't know if any of those rumors were true. What I do know is that I was copied on a lot of texts and emails, and the Cache Republican Party had originally planned to debate on June 2nd. That was canceled due to a family obligation Representative Peterson had, and then several other dates were thrown my way, the 6th, the 9th, the 11th, and none of them came to be. Finally, last Friday, an event was followed through on with only former Representative Val Potter on hand. I moderated that event. It was actually a great event, and there was a decent crowd and some great questions, and former Representative Ed Red was there to stir the pot a little bit, of course. So it was a fun night, but I reached out to the respective campaigns, and we negotiated over the weekend, and yesterday finally nailed it down. This Thursday, 5 to 6 p.m. here on the show, Representative Mike Peterson and former Representative Val Potter will be right here in the studio. We will not do this as a traditional debate format. It doesn't work real well with the radio format. But what we will do is give them a chance for opening statements and closing pitches, like an elevator pitch I'm going to ask them to do, I think. And then we'll just take 3 or 4 topics and then have a discussion about them. So same result as a debate. You'll have an opportunity to see where the candidates are on certain issues, how they differ with each other. One listener has suggested that I ask each candidate a question they would like to ask their opponent. We might throw that question in. Another listener from District 3 has suggested that we spend the entire hour on water. I don't think we'll do that, but it is definitely a topic that will come up. Growth. There have been some great questions about education funding coming from potential voters, registered voters in the district, emailing them in. Specifically questions about how the legislature plans to replace the 100-plus-year-old constitutional provision that they, I say, kind of tricked voters into undoing with some deceptive ballot language. Now there's no guarantee of education funding, no handcuffs tying lawmakers' hands. They can spend income tax collected by the state on anything they want. Several listeners have emailed and said, what's the plan to guarantee education funding doesn't suffer by opportunistic decisions? So a lot of questions we might throw in, but again, that is 5 to 6 p.m. this Thursday. Representative Peterson and former Representative